Alright, here we go. Alright, welcome back to Comic History, episode 100, and I believe I'm on episode 102. Yes. There's a few things I forgot to mention from 2016, and we're talking about the highlights from 2017, 2018. Oh boy, I'll be discussing those things particularly. 2016, well, the big thing with this particular year, aside from the happening of Civil War II, which was an event that had no build, an event that I gotta admit, basically, even after rereading it years later for my YouTube channel, that the handling of this event was much better than it was in Civil War 1. For instance, the tie-ins actually felt like actual tie-ins, because the tie-ins are supposed to be expansions upon, the main event. And I would say the most important books, aside from Civil War 2, were just I would say probably Uncanny Humans and Iron Man. Those two. This, of course, now Uncanny Humans at the time was written by Charles Soule. Of course, this was the unpopular push of Inhumans that nobody wanted. Sadly put, basically about a year after this, Uncanny Humans would end. After 20 issues. Marvel did launch another Inhumans series part of this one, which was All New Inhumans by James Amos. It lasted for about a year and then got canceled. The All New Inhumans book was mostly put just Crystal take a group of humans, newer characters, and just go around the world. That was really the whole purpose of the book. And the one thing they built up early on in the book was a guest appearance by Spider-Man. You probably think, oh, was he there for sales boost? Not really. He was actually there for a good story reason. Why? Because they have these spires. They built up in the first story arc, and then, nothing. And I kind of felt as though with that book, that this book in particular was just put out there because Spider-Man was doing the whole thing of post-Secret Wars with him having his company, which was Stout but Spirit of Spider-Man, the Parker Industries stuff, which went global. Yes... Though someone did point this out, though, that this is basically Dan Slott ripping off Dan Garrett, Ted Core with the whole thing in front of that company. The company itself will be gone by the next year. Let's see, was anything else? Oh yes, in Standoff, Steve Rogers. Now, Steve Rogers in 2014, because of stuff happening to Rick Remender's run, he had been aged up to his actual age, because of course his serum was taking his body. This effect for him, because post-Secret War, for some weird reason, the way Nick Spencer wrote it, is that Sam and Steve have falling out. Also, Sam was dating Misty Knight this period of time, which was a really weird idea for a relationship, given the fact Misty Knight has generally been the love interest of Iron Fist. Though, here's the weird thing. Prior to this, just a few years prior to this, she was dating C-list villain Paladin. Yes, a very, very brief relationship that did not go anywhere at all. It only existed in a second volume for Heroes for Hire, which was written by, I think it was Dan Abnett. I think it was Zeb Wells wrote the book. The book was really good. I enjoyed that book. That was in 2011. It did have Spider-Man cast in the book, which was really cool. It was basically bring back the previous iteration of the Heroes for Hire, except these people were basically doing it for free. And the only one got paid was Paladin. Yeah. So, and Nick Spencer was saying, oh, this book is a love letter to Mark Greenwald because it featured a Super Society. First time they've been active this big since the 80s, which was really cool. It had a good start, got a good new sidekick in that run. And then came Standoff, where, well, that book was also celebrating, I think it was this was in 2016, I think it was. This was roughly, I think this was 75 years since Captain America's debut, I think it was. Actually, it was 65 years. It was 65 years since his debut. Around the period of time. So, yeah, they decided to age Steve Rogers, and then he got his own spin-off title after this called Captain America Steve Rogers. Oh, by the way, also, the Sam Wilson title for the Legacy numbering, that was actually counted for the Captain America number, but not Steve Rogers' book. But then, of course, came issue 1. It came out. And came the infamous line that he said at the end of the book, and got the rare death threats because of it, when Captain America iterated the famous line of Hail Hydra. Which, of course, the Easter egg for this they did this as a nod. They did nod to this particular line. Him saying this in Endgame. Yes, for some reason they do this. Nick Spencer himself got a lot of death threats out of this. Oh my gosh. It was one of I think it was the only time he got death threats. And it was not pleasant for him. But he probably had a lot of protection against Marvel's legal team per se. But yeah, he got death threats over this. Oh my gosh, it was insane. The amount of backlash this got. And then it basically had it where, they released later the whole thing. Of course, his memories have been altered, where he was Agent of Hydra all along, despite the fact he really wasn't. And the fact that he was friends with Baron Zemo. I should point out this is friends with the second Zemo. Yeah, this is really weird. And also, behind the scenes, he was encouraging the whole thing happening in Civil War II. Well, that's the way it was written in the title. Because he was basically... Because this was Hydra Cap. And then came 2017. An event, a year that... put out, quite possibly, before this event came out, this was also I think this was the third year in a row, Marvel put out a crossover, yeah, I think Marvel put out a crossover. I think it was just prior to this big storyline here. So, after Civil War II, there was... first you had this... you had these couple of minor events that steps up in 2017 for the X books. That being first, Death of X. Death of X basically was to fill the gap, the 8-month time skip, because post-time skip, Adult Cyclops was dead. Yes. Also, I also get to mention this book here, Extraordinary X-Men, which was by Jeff Lemire. Had it where, the X-Men moved the Jean Grey School of Higher Learning to Limbo, because apparently the Terror Region Mist became very toxic, where it is going to kill in mutants, and also, the way it was written, it was like the mutants were not, basically almost incapable of having children. Yes, I thought this was a really stupid idea. And then came an event, my friend Tibia basically did a rant. I remember he did a rant when this book was announced. He's like, why? Why is this event happening in Humans vs. X-Men? Yeah, this was something my friend Tibia, he ranted for 20 minutes about why the heck this series was even happening in the first place. Yeah, it's basically a small rehash of Avengers vs. X-Men, though this probably was needed. And this is a result of a build-up they had over the course of 2 years. And by the end, basically knowing after the story wrapped up, Cyclops is magically alive. He doesn't play a role after this. God forbid he does. Yeah, and this is on by Charles Shaw and Jeff Lemire, with Len Francis Yu, Ken Rockford. Oh, before I continue with this, in 2015, there was something related to X-Men I forgot to mention. First being what happened with All New X number 41. By far, the most hated issue of the whole series. The reason being, because young Jean Grey outed Teenage Iceman as gay. Oh boy. This is as much hate as the Hail Hydra stuff, but my gosh. Anybody could probably say this was a stupid idea. By far. One of the dumbest ideas. And then when they did the Kinetic 600, they outed President Iceman as gay. But also, here was the weird thing with Kenny X-Men that particular year. This is the only thing I've ever seen for Kenny X-Men as long as reading comics. Where, for some weird reason, and here, this is something that I have tried to find out what the heck was going on with this. Because in 2015, this was not a good year for Kenny X-Men publication-wise. Because the last series was when Brian Michael Bendis wrote the book. For some weird reason, I don't know why the heck this happened. But here was the biggest problem with Kenny X-Men in that particular year. You want to know what that was? The frickin' delays! Yes, this book had been delayed. Like, it took 6 months to release 4 frickin' comic books. It was like a few. Yes, and then 600, my biggest problem with that issue is that it was, you think, 600 issue Kenny X-Men. Big celebration! Nope, it's a regular sized comic book, and the only reason why they decided to charge more because they reprinted a bizarre adventure story for Iceman that implied this was where Iceman came out as gay. Like, here's the thing, I read the damn story. You have some guy who admires him, but I highly doubt basically this is a result of him being gay. It was by far a dumb publicity stunt. They later got a brief solo book out of this nonsense. Yes, a brief solo book. By a writer who put his foot in his mouth on Twitter. Yes. Now to finally move on to 2017. Yeah, Humanist vs. X-Men. Now, after this, it was much better time for X-Men after this. Oh gosh, yes, it was a much better thing. Yeah, Deadpool also had a spin-off title called Deadpool X-Men, which ended no longer after this. He also crossed it with Spider-Man Deadpool. All new X-Men, and basically all these titles, all new X-Men, Extraordinary X-Men, Uncanny Humans, Uncanny X-Men, all these books ended not long after this. Uncanny X-Men was relaunched #1. Extra X-Men, Uncanny X-Men actually ended. Yeah, it ended. It got replaced with X-Men Gold. Actually, Extra X-Men did that. All new X-Men replaced with X-Men Blue. Blue, if I remember, was done by Colin Bunn. And I think that Gold was done by... I'm trying to remember. I think it was Guggenheim. Yeah, it was Guggenheim. It was known as Resurrection X. It started in March 2017. Because there was a rumor swirling around prior to this thing coming out where the reason why the X-Men got the treatment they did in the early 2010s because Marvel was punishing the X-Men because the movie rights dared to be owned by Fox. And this event basically put rest that particular rumor. So basically we had also in the Humans, they also had prior to the Humans vs. X-Men stuff. There's a short-lived series for Karnak. It basically like a full year, like over a year, released 5 issues. Yeah, I don't know the reason for this. So we had a Black Ball book by Saad Ahmed, which was really good. I think this was actually his first book he ever did for the company. Al Ewing's The Royals, which this book had a very forced romance toward the end of the book, where Gargan was somehow in love with Medusa. Oh, prior to this, Medusa had been dating Human Torch at the Secret Wars, and then randomly she decided to go back to her husband by pure randomness. And then now she's with Gargan, and then he dies because of the whole stuff with a one-shot. There was a book I forgot to mention. In 2009, we had the launch of the really good book known as Secret Warriors. This was a result of the Secret Invasion in 2008. Lasted for a good couple years. Great title. The members were Nick Fury, Quake, Hellfire, who was a alleged descendant of one of the Ghostwriters. Druid, who's actually the son of Dr. Druid. Phoebos, who I believe this was the son of Ares. Stonewall, who's the son of Absorbent Eden Frosty, who actually is still very much around. Yeah, at one point he joined the Avengers because Hickman was running the book at the time. He also launched a side book along with this one. This was done by Hickman. He launched his Shield book, which was really good. It had published for a while, and then in 2017 we had to launch the second volume for Secret Warriors, which the members were Quake, who is for this point was going by her real name for some weird reason, Miss Marvel, this was Kamala Khan, Moon Girl, Devil Dinosaur, Inferno, who was a character from Shoal's book, who briefly dated the leader of the Inhumans, Karnak, and Magic. And it was Matthew Rosenberg book. Yeah, Matthew Rosenberg. Remember this guy? Yeah, this guy wrote excellent books in Marvel Comics. I met him once. He's a cool guy. He wrote 2020 Force Works. His earliest book he did for Marvel Comics was he did some X-Men books. Yes. Yeah. And after a year, the book ended. Marvel also launched, they still own the Wolverine published. They brought back Astonishing X-Men, first by Scholl, then Rosenberg did the remaining issues. Cable got his first new ongoing since 2009. Actually, it was ended 2010. It was the first one he published in 7 years. They brought back Generation X with, I show this to Liddell, even he agrees with this. Yeah, they picked a terrible artist for this book where all the characters, all the faces, they look like horses. We had the awful Iceman book, yes. The really good Jean Grey book, which for some weird reason people call this is one of the Extreme Feminist books along with Hawkeye. They also had Miss America getting a book, which I did not like the book at all. You had Weapon X. Yeah, this was a title launched by Greg Pak. Excellent title, by the way. X-Men Blue, which this was Colin Bunn. Guggenheim did Gold. There was also X-Men by Tom Taylor. The X-Men basically were just firing all cylinders. Basically, excellent titles. But there was one event. I'm trying to think. I think it was actually... Oh, yeah. There was actually Monster Unleashed. Good title. And then came the event that pretty much basically got... That did have build and is considered to be, by readers, to be one of the worst crossovers in the history of Marvel Comics. This event was so bad. This is from my perspective, and a lot of people who read this. I met one person who actually liked this story for some weird reason. Because they built this story up right after Civil War II. They built this up from that point. Also, Iron Man after Civil War II was knocked to coma, though he came back in 2018. He came back in 2017 for a fresh start for Marvel Legacy. So, this event, Secret Empire. Yes, there's also an organization in Marvel Comics with the same name. This title has nothing to do with it at all. Oh boy, 2017. Quite possibly, a lot of the year was really bad for our readers because of this stupid event. Monster Unleashed barely got promoted. This event was promoted higher than this one was. But 2017, okay, I was hearing really terrible things that Marvel editors were telling their writers to do. And you want to know what this was? Okay, so Marvel editors in 2017 were telling their writers to bash Donald Trump on Twitter every day. I'm like, if I was one of the writers, I'm not freaking doing that. I'm limiting my freaking job. I'm not gonna bash Trump. Yeah. And also, by the way, here's a weird little factoid about 2017 2020. Did you know this is the only years, this is the first time ever Marvel Comics where, get this, whoever the U.S. president was at that point in time was never featured in this comic book. Any comic book from Marvel. None. From FDR, heck, even Barack Obama, everybody was featured. But was Trump? No, he was not. Heck, the idiot Joe Biden made a cameo in Marvel Comic Universe. But did Donald frickin' Trump? No! It's like Marvel just didn't care. DC didn't give a damn about it at all. You want to know who did feature him? Spawn and Savage Dragon. They bothered to feature him. Spawn was just a cameo. Trump in Savage Dragon was a stupid parody of him. That was completely the wrong idea. This is Eric Larson's insert of Donald Trump. This is what he thinks Donald Trump is. This is why I think that's not actually what he is at all. Yeah. I mean, during this event, they blew up Las Vegas, which got fixed for next year. We had a tie-in where Steve Rogers got interviewed by Sally Field, who interviewed him during Civil War I. Which, by the way, they did change the dialogue from the original when they originally interviewed him, because Sally called him out of date because he didn't watch NASCAR and was on MySpace. In this book, they changed the Twitter. Yes, they changed they changed the dialogue. If you read Civil War Frontline would have this interview happen, and then you get this book when they replay that very same interview, they changed the dialogue because different writer. And Sally Floyd, because she dare mention the word two words Las Vegas, she was immediately locked up and never heard from again, except somehow she got released somehow. Was never explained why. It was briefly during this event, Steve Rogers decided to have somebody bring back the frickin' Hulk, who died during Civil War I. Yeah, how he died was really weird. It's like, apparently kind of new. Now, here's the weird thing about this particular point in time for 2016 when Civil War I's going on. So, in the Greg Pak Toy Awesome Hulk book, Bruce Banner had no gamma in his body. All winds, Armadeus choke. All of it. And is in this event, there was actually a tiny sliver of it left, and I can instantly turn into the Hulk. And Hawkeye kills him with an arrow to head. Yes, Hawkeye kills the Hulk. And you're like, why the heck would they kill off a Stan Lee Jack Kirby character? I wanted the same thing. It's one of the most baffling things. He was briefly revived, but it wasn't a full resurrection. They didn't go anywhere. They also briefly killed off Black Widow in this story. Yes, they killed off Black Widow. Spider-Man was barely featured in this story. Like, here's the thing. Throughout this whole event, you read this whole event, you're wondering, where the heck is Peter? Oh, he's off in China. No, seriously. He is off in frickin' China. Squirrel Girl was off in the Savage Land. Black Panther hid in his own country. And you're like, what kind of baffling writing is this? Writers of Marvel Comics and DC, Marvel writers in 2017, taking players who should be involved in an event like this. Oh, by the way, they did have kind of Iron Man involved in this story when they had Riri take over his title. Yes, they still had an Iron Man title being published, except it was Riri Williams, who was the starring character. Also, Doctor Doom got a series as Infamous Iron Man, which was really good, which I even talked to Alex Maloney about this, where it was Fantastic Four without the Fantastic Four. And according to Alex Believe, that was all the point of the book. Yes. Yeah. And a lot of this book, and he had this resistance happening. Which you read the event, you're like, what exactly is this doing? Because they have one random issue in the book where you had Ultron apparently took over a form his own city in Alaska. This also was the period of time where Ultron and Hank Pym merged into one. And then they mysteriously became separated years later by sheer randomness. Yeah, this is all. Yeah, you can say this is the period of time where Marvel just did not give a damn about characters created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. because you had Hulk dying, Eggman apparently dying, Cap become Hydra agent. Yeah. It was so baffling, the story. And you have Steve like, oh, I don't know what to do because he's so hesitant to do what he wants to frickin' do. Also, after Standoff, they brought back Thunderbolts for 12 issues before they axed the book because Cosmic Cube blew up. Yeah, Cosmic Cube became a little girl in Standoff, and she got put in this other book, which is really good, by the way. Jim Zep did an amazing job with this title. It's a shame the book got canceled. And this book was basically, you could say this book was sort of nostalgia for people who are fans of Thunderbolts, because that was the whole point of the book. I think it was all celebrating like 30 years of debut of Thunderbolts. Yes, it was really good. I love that book. So, what else was there? Let's see. So, after the event, but by the way, the event was 10 issues. Yeah, Secret Empire was 10 issues. And I guess after this, Marvel stopped doing issues that have reached that far because events after this never went past 6 because this book also received a delay too. Yeah, third year in a row, you had an issue skip month. But Light Decay and Secret Wars, no reason for it. Yeah, no reason for it. Yeah, and then we have, oh, let's have Hydra Cap put on his Hydra Cap suit, and then we have the real Steve Rogers return and beat up Civil, and then he is put in prison instead of dying, and then he got killed off in Tiny Colossus run, and then he just came back in another event, and now he's Flag Smasher now. I'm like, what was the point of keeping this character around? Who the heck freaking knows? And he was really dumb. 1 month after this event wrapped up, Black Widow's going to be alive and well, despite the fact she clearly died. Came back in Tales of Astonish, where first off, it was part of the whole, because right after Secret Empire, we had a much better form of storytelling, in my opinion. Marvel did something that Marvel readers have been begging them for years to do this. Can we please see the restore of the original numbering of these titles? And it did happen. And it didn't sell very well because a lot of these books got canceled. I think Marvel just did because people wanted it, and then they just didn't bother to market it properly. That's why a lot of these like kicking acts. Like, here's the a lot of these titles basically, like, some did make sense. One made 0 sense, and that was freaking Punisher. Yes, because first was Becky Cohen down to Secret Wars. After she left, then it was, oh, by the way, she was the first female writer for Punisher, and then it was Matthew Rosenberg, a really good one for the title. Because he took over after she left. This was the Marvel Legacy book, which, here's the weird thing. Marvel decided not to count not only Volume 6, which is the Max book, I understand that, but they also didn't count Volume 5. Which, by the way, same book written by the same guy who wrote the previous volume of the book. Which, I'm glad that basically Purgatory wasn't counted, because that was pretty bad. But maybe the reason Marvel didn't want anything to do with Volume 5, and this is my honest opinion of the matter, is because the book was really bad. Really, really bad. And I'm guessing Marvel just didn't want to include a part of numbering. So, the numbering itself was way off. Yeah, way off. So, yeah, all these books, we heard interpreted numbering. One, another didn't make any sense, which was Amazing Spider-Man, because for some weird reason, they decided to include the first volume, Renew Your Vows, as part of the numbering, even though that was Ultimate Universe Spider-Man, not Present Universe Spider-Man. Yeah. And thanks to this, basically, well, sadly put, basically, knowing after the stuff with these books wrapped up after a very short period of time, Bendis left Marvel Comics for DC in 2018. Jason Aaron wrapped up his... Actually got relaunched after this, and then he left the following year. He left Thor finally in 2019. Avengers basically got 8 restored triple digit numbering, and first that crossover Champions where he wrote the Characters and Champions book because the Avengers were dicks and champions. And then after this, we had the really good No Surrender storyline, which brought back the Black Order, the entire group. All of them were pretty much killed part of this. And this launched a successful ongoing series. That being Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing. Yes, that's what came after this one. And then the success of this book launched No Road Home, which this resulted in, I kid you not, this resulted in the return of Conan the Barbarian to Marvel Comics. And he also was interacting with the Marvel characters. Yeah, by the way, this actually was first appearing in Marvel Comics since like 2001. Yes. Which after this started the really good Gary Duggan Secret Avengers book, where he had David Finch doing most of the covers. I even praised him on his live stream for the covers of that book. Secret Avengers was amazing. Amazing book. Shane basically the first time I ended after like, I think it was like 30 issues. I think it was like 27 issues. This book lasted for, it had like an annual. This book was amazing. Yeah. Though 2018 basically did have something that a lot of people were not particularly happy with it. With this initiative per se from Marvel. This initiative being Marvel Fresh Start. Yes. Fresh Start. Where you had these. Now, a lot of the books published under this line were really good. Yeah, really good. So Venom, forgot to mention, Venom got relaunched after Secret Wars as Venom Space Knight. Lasted 15 issues. It just ended, and then Marvel announced, "Oh, we have a brand new Venom," despite the fact they already have Venom already. And this was Lee Pierce. And the book lasts 6 issues. Thank God they got rid of Lee Pierce and put Eddie Brock back in the season by Mike Costa. Though it took basically Robbie Thompson to explain what the heck happened between issues, because Mike Costa didn't want to explain it. And also this was the weird period of time where Venom, it was implied that the relationship between Venom and Eddie Brock was sexual, and this resulted in Brock getting pregnant with their symbiote. And this resulted in the creation of the character Sleeper. This was all in the first Hulk book. So, and then afterwards, Fresh Start, we had these brand new, well, also, 2017, basically Fresh Start. Here was a really cool thing. A lot of people were basically praising Marvel for doing this. They took Dan Slott away from Spider-Man, and they put him in Fantastic Four. I guess a lot of people were like, "Thank you! You took him off the book. He was in the book way too long." He put out, it was like the whole relaunch thing for this period of time. The whole relaunching was not a good idea. A lot of people hated it, but there was some really good books. This is probably Marvel's best years in some time. Yeah, Venom by Donny Cates, which was an excellent book, which led to books like Absolute Carnage and King in Black, which was awesome. You had Ty Notikotis run for Black Panther, which was amazing. Now, Deadpool, who came back in 2008, that book lasted for 4 years under Daniel Wade. Got relaunched under Gary Duggan, which he had a very successful run of the book from 2012 to 2018. And then got played by Scotty Young. But also this period of time for this is really weird. So, basically, what was it? I forgot to mention here. Oh yeah, so this started a trend for Deadpool, where for about a few volumes in a row, it's like Marvel. It's like either Marvel or the readers had no faith in this title anymore. Because each successive volume that came out this one was like, this 15 issues. And then we had 2 straight volumes of 10 issues. Liefeld I asked him about this. Kind of. Basically, it's like, maybe Marvel doesn't have good writers. Despite the fact Scotty Adams' book was really good. I enjoyed that book because it was still serious, still comedy. You also had Dan Slott doing Iron Man, which was an interesting idea. Of course, Jason Aaron did his final run on Thor. Of course, Al Ewing's Mortal Hulk. Doctor Strange on with Mark. Well, okay, I forgot to mention the whole thing with Doctor Strange. So, they probably got his title in 2015 under Jason Aaron, which was really good. And then we had, let's see, who was the writer of this book at this period of time? Let's see. You had, because after Aaron left, yes, after Jason Aaron left, you had Dennis Hope was for a few issues, and John Berber. Then you had Wade. Yep, he was the writer of this book. Wrote the book until 2020. Yep. There was a brief central. Yeah, he came back to life. Captain America was also written by Ty Nelicotis. Nick Smith left this book and he went over to Amazing Experiment. He had an amazing run this book. It was awesome. Yeah, Nick Smith, he wrote like a lot of issues. How many issues did he write? He wrote 75 issues. And this book was amazing. Don't deny it. Laura, book was good. I didn't like the idea of this. Put it back as an X-23. Really dumb idea. Mr. and Mrs. X, this is a result of a issue 30 of X-Men Gold, where they attempt to have the wedding of Colossus and Kitty Pryde, and the switcheroo actually was going to be Rogue and Gambit, which the writer of the book, Kelly Thompson, had no idea. Yeah. So, I read Smash Book. They also brought back West Coast Avengers. They launched the short-lived Asgardians of the Galaxy, which lasts 10 issues. Unstoppable Walls, this was a revival of a previous volume by the same writer. A short-lived Sherry book. Their special book. Kenny X-Men. This would be also 2018. Of course, the book was started with basically started after of another crossover, Extermination, which this resulted in death of the original Cable, brought in Kid Cable, brought back Cyclops, and the original 5 X-Men went back to the past. And just prior to this one, we had the return of Jean Grey, first time since 2004, where she died. And she came back. This book is back since then. So, yeah, I heard getting a short-lived title. Miles Morales got a book by Simon that started his run. Crisis Cage started his short-lived volume for Spirit. So this started in the aftermath of another story that happened in 2018. The sequel to Spider-Verse, Spider-Guy Den, which was really good, by the way. And then later on, we had another Spider-Verse miniseries. And now, you think after Spider-Guy Den, anytime we have an event like Spider-Verse, it was limited to like one series. Because I think maybe, and this is my personal, because I think people get a little fatigued with these Spider-Man crossovers that are happening, so they decided to stop doing it. Just keep it small scale. Of course, we launched the Champions. It's not less for long. X-Force. This book had terrible artwork. I remember this book. It was really terrible artwork. Though in 2018, though this will launch in the very next year, but that began in 2018. But 2019, a lot of really good stuff happened. Some good, really stuff in 2019. But maybe we should go ahead and talk about 2018. Yeah. So the first thing to come out in the year 2018, aside from Champions, was the launch of the most successful Captain Marvel title since Brian Reed wrote the book, and also the longest book under Kelly Thompson's writership. Captain Marvel, of course, yes. A book that was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Of course, 2018 we also had War of the Realms happen this very year, which is an amazing crossover. You had the return of Fan with Spider-Man. A third volume for Invaders. The brief revival of Mark Hamill Presents. Marvel Legacy brought back Wolverine, so we got featured in this book. Guardians of the Galaxy was brought back. This was amazing under this run. Of course, it was later launched on Al Ewing. Kept the same style of writing, which is really good. Daredevil, very mixed run, this one. Yes. A friend of mine dropped this book due to Zardesky writing a line of, enact your white privilege, when Daredevil was in prison. So I was also the Magnificent Ms. Marvel. briefly brought back Marvel Team Up. There's a Black Cat title which was really good by Jed MacKay. Yeah, Jed MacKay came his own in 2019. This is the start of his rise of basically him doing, in my opinion, a lot of really good hit titles. Not only Black Cat, Moon Knight, Doctor Strange, currently doing Avengers. I Like It for X-Men. I mean, the guy basically just hitting all cylinders. Yeah. A lot of, like, really good books. Well, 2019, basically, the end of the traditional X-Men stuff, because starting in late 2019, started something that a friend of mine didn't care for at all. But I'm in here because it's going 40 minutes here. 2019 would start off something that, well, I did like some ideas for this whole thing, but not everything. So, this also became something that a lot of people got turned off by. The Krakoa stuff. Yes, that lasted for the next few years. Where the X-Men became allegories for the LGBT community for this era. Yes. And if you dare criticize saying you get bullied online. My response to it, if anybody tries to bully me with the fact that I didn't like something about Krakoa, I'm going to say, like, freedom of speech, dude. I'm enacting my First Amendment rights. Yeah. I would say you may have the right basically say what the heck you want. You do not have the right to bully me over an opinion. Like, if you like everything related to the Krakoa stuff, that's fine. I am not going to bash somebody online over this. Yeah, there'll be no bashing from me. If you like something, fine. I'm not going to basically criticize you for, like, I may not agree with you per se, but I'm not going to bash somebody for online like some idiots like to do because they like something. Yeah. This happened with people who dare say they like Last Jedi. So what did these some fans do who didn't like Last Jedi? They bullied them. Yes, they freaking bullied them for daring to say they like Last Jedi. Yeah, that was really dumb. But I'm into right here. I'm going for quite a while now. This will also be the last video of these look back stuff because I've covered like everything mostly up to date because I think mostly anybody who's reading comics now have been pretty much reading comics since the last few years. So if I do comic history, I'll probably get something else. So that's pretty much it for the video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and notifications. Next up we have is, well, I'm going to go ahead and do One Piece. Get that out of the way. Okay, next video. Bye.